So happy Tuesday. Happy Tuesday. I believe that it's the 27th of August already. Hey, Rodney, how are you, bud?
Doing fantastic. How are you doing?
You know what? It's just hotter than it is freaking hot outside. I think a big portion of the country's feeling the same thing, but I usually go outside to kind of relax before the show, and I was like, not today. It was freaking
Not
hot.
unless you want to have some sweat spots on that nice purple shirt. I like that
It is a
shirt.
nice purple. It's a royalty thing, I like it. It goes with my sign here in the back. It's complimentary. It's nice. Hey, it's good to see you. There's just a lot of stuff going on, and I going to start this way. Rodney and I are just we do this show. We're having fun, just sharing our opinions on stuff. We're not lawyers, so there's no legal advice going on. My name's Andy Elliott, Realtor here in Williamson County. I'm with Rodney. He's a loan officer, also in Williamson County. If you have questions or anything, send us a text, send us an email. It's all in the description box below. Easy peasy to do. Love to chat with you. Give us a call. So, were you? I'm going to start this way. I'm going to start just a little bit different. I, for one, am pleased as all get out with what's happening to the mortgage rates currently. Rodney, talk us through. We're going to do this here. Okay, so we're back on Rodney's rates. We're doing this a little
Nice.
different today. What on earth is going on? How can it go from 719 or whatever it was to what it is today? How does that happen?
Well, I think the world and maybe even the Fed has kind of recognized reacting to the economy. The jobs report came out and we've had a little bit of a tumble since then and maintained those levels. We're actually over a floor of support right now that we're testing it today, still above it. Very bullish, if very good for maintain above the level of support where we're at, and then go into the coming weeks with the Fed cut anticipated, so, or maybe 18th. We some significant increases, and we've got a nice level of support. Just how the market conditions are, it's good news. I'm excited about it too. I feel like we've had a couple jump starts with these rates over the last couple of years, and you're like, but I feel like this time it's got a lot of momentum. It's seen a significant decrease, and yeah, we're definitely excited about it.
I'm excited about it too, and it's coming at a good time of the year. I've got tons of stuff queued up here, and so we're going to be a little bit. This is kind of going to be a little different for Rodney too, because we're changing the format just a little bit. I'm going to be a little more free flowing about if something, if there's a number of topics that are salient to what's going on, we're going to cover them all instead of trying to stick on one area of the business, because we're all about real estate and how the things are changing across the country, and so we've got to be flexible on what's going on. There's stuff going on here in Nashville. We're going to talk about that. That's at the end of the show. I want to include that local stuff for people that might be looking from across the country that maybe want to move into the Middle Tennessee, Nashville area, or Tennessee, as it might be the case with Ange. But we're going to do local stuff too. So I think that I'm hoping, and you're absolutely right, when it comes to the rates, we've had sort of a couple of, I'm going to call them false starts. I don't know that that's accurate, but they start to drop and everybody's hopes get up, and then all of a sudden it shoots back up. Do you think that there's a decent chance that it's going to stick this time, meaning we're going to stay with that downward trend? Is that what you're saying?
I definitely do. Trend, it always goes up and down. I think the rates are going to continue to decrease over the next year or so. All economic indicators are showing that our economy's slowing, job market's slowing. We've had a couple bumps in the road in the stock market. I don't see any way inflation is cooling. Um, so I don't see any way that the rates can stay where they're at.
Um, Technical comment for anybody that's watching, and usually most of our views come after in the replays. The internet's kind of being bumpy. It's being a little grumpy with us today, but it almost always smooths out once the pathway gets going. So just bear with us a little bit. It sometimes bumps around a little bit, but it won't last. So I agree with you, Rodney. And I think the jobs report sobered some people up, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean, they got them to really pay attention, that 818,000 is a bunch, that's a significant number. And if we're losing that kind of labor force, they've got to do something to get people to be able to work again, or the employers back. And I think that's the important thing that tends to be forgotten in the current, I'm not going to get political, in the current administration. It's the people that are creating the jobs that make this whole thing work. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, when housing, the bottom line is housing. Uh, Housing is always better when people are stable in their jobs. When the job market's good. When job market's bad, and there's starting to be more unemployment, then housing slows down. It directly correlates.
And all I'm saying is, if there's enough for a guy that the rainmaker to make a business work, just like you're a rainmaker in the lending business, if there's enough business to make it work, you can hire on more people, and everybody grows, and a rising tide lifts all ships. That's what I'm getting at. That it's the rainmaker, that the worker is important. I get that, but the rainmaker's got to bring the
Got to be able
water.
to create the job, right?
Yeah, yeah, yep. And and I think that gets, I won't. I would head down a political path if I started, so I won't. I know we're allowed to, but
Yeah.
I'm not going to do that. So let's start on this. And the article came from CNN, which has they've turned a corner a little bit. And again, that would be a political thing. But finally, America's housing market is loosening up, but it'll be a bumpy road back. And there's truth to that. So let's kind of dig into this. You ready to go, Rodney? Here we go.
Yeah.
You all buckled up? Elevated mortgage rates and home prices have pushed prospective home buyers to the sidelines. In addition, homeowners have been reluctant to put their properties on the market and risk potentially forfeiting the ultra-low mortgage rates they locked in during the pandemic. I read an article today that, again, they're blaming the baby boomers for the inventory problem, because the older folks have moved, people have died, and they're, housing one or two people in a 4-bedroom house, and they're pissed off that they're not selling their house and bringing it back into the market. I thought they're blaming
Damn those people for watching out for their financial security.
How can you do that? That's so selfish and self-centered, you boomers. That's created the perfect storm of a housing market that's been more or less frozen. But anticipation that the Federal Reserve will start cutting interest rates, boy, we're going to dig into that, is breathing new life into the housing market. And yes, it is. The standard 30-year fixed rate mortgage is starting to fall earlier this year, just what Rodney was talking about, and recently plunged to its lowest level in a year. I mean, today it's 644. On my broad base, I look at mortgage news daily, and I know that you can, whatever I say, you can get it for less, right, Rodney? Yes.
Yes, sure.
Okay, he said emphatically. I'm trying to figure out which camera I'm using. I'm pretty sure it's this one here. Okay. All right. Another piece of encouraging news came Friday. New home sales jumped by more than 10% last month to the highest level since May of 2023. Here's another. Let me come back to that. As a result, now with these rate changes, if you're allowed to tell me this, I don't, I know you wouldn't. Are refinances, are they jumping up again now, or has that market changed a little bit with the way
Te-
rates are
te-
going?
Technically, yes. Technically, we've seen some stats that refinances increased like 10% or something like that. But when it's almost at zero and they start, a few refinance, it doesn't take many refinances to make that number look good.
Yeah,
But for the most part, there's not a lot of However, if you say, okay, well, you've gotten a 15% increase, if we had country had one and then they went to two, that's 100% increase. But you know what I'm saying?
I
We're
do.
starting out, nobody was refinancing. It did create some refinances, but the percent number looks a little bit higher than it should, if that makes sense.
It makes total sense. Yeah, if you go from 2 to 4, it's 100%. You're like, that's a headline until you look at the bottom line. Then it's another type of headline.
Yeah. Exactly.
I would think it would have to. I'm just thinking outside. I'm just bounce something around. If someone were to refinance in this circumstance, it'd have to be a pretty special reason, wouldn't it? I mean, you're like having to really, really want to pay off some debt or something. I mean, because if you were to jump from 4 to 6.5, you've got to be really motivated to get that cash out, right?
Yeah, it's getting closer, in my opinion, to where it could make sense.
Yeah.
Um, there's a lot of there's a lot of other debt that people could be paying off. When you start getting it in the 6% range, that's you know, if you're paying off credit cards at 15% and there's 100,000 of that would make sense. So look at all the factors.
Yeah, I'm just saying there's a lot more calculations because it used to be, don't be stupid, it's free money, take it. A few years ago when it was 3%, they're giving away money, don't be stupid. But now it takes quite a calculation. All right. So here's the question I've got, and I want to ask you directly on this. I'm going to read it again. Then another piece of encouraging news came Friday. New home sales jumped more than 10% last month. I'm assuming that means since June or July. Let's make sure we've got this dated correctly. Oh yeah, it was August 25th. So let's say that was July because they said that July went up quite a bit. I'm going to be really interested, and I guess it's too early to see what the August September numbers are with the new rule change for real estate. I am just dying to see if that's had what kind of impact that's had on sales.
I think actually we had a rate drop. August 24th was
Mm-hmm.
around 23rd, maybe 22nd, somewhere around there. Was a drop, and it kind of created some flurry, and that was right after the contract change. So I
Right.
think it's going to pick up, and increase a little bit right after the NAR change. Um, because the settlement was like, doing the 17th, the NAR stuff had to change, and then the 24th, the rates decreased a little bit. So I think you're going to see a little pickup in purchases um, due to that, and so you'll get some numbers on at least the NAR change, how that went. I think it's
Yeah.
going to be okay.
Well, we'll see. I mean, I think it's going to be okay too, because ultimately, in the end, and I know we're going to be a little bit of a broken record, but that's a good thing. Sometimes I think that what you'd said probably starting a year ago, if not more, was the market's going to sort all this stuff out. And I actually brought that to my broker. We were having a conversation. Philip Cantrell is his name. He's just a brilliant. I love that. He's a smart guy. And we were talking about that, and I told him, I said, my lender, this is what he says about the market, whatever that is going to sort this all out, whatever that is, and I meant, and he said, that's absolutely true. That's never changed. It's just that people have to, it's how they respond to it. Is it a tragedy or is it a triumph? It just depends on your mindset,
Right.
I mean, the market, I guess that's what I enjoy about the capitalistic system. It's that invisible hand will slap the shit out of you, sorry about that. until you mind your manners, and then you price things correctly and it goes and pats you on the head, you're okay. That's kind of an interesting thing. Sorry about the swear word. I'll try to censor that later. No.
Yeah. It's still a family show.
It still is. Sorry. On top of that, existing home sales also rose last month, bink, albeit by a much more modest 1.3%, according to data from the National Association of Realtors that broke a 4-month streak of declining sales. So we're on the uptick. But for many people looking to finally own a home, the housing market looks this is a little dark, just as bleak as it did when the Fed was still hiking rates last year. Affordability persists. Existing home prices were 4.2% higher in July compared to a year ago, after rising for the 13th consecutive month. In order to qualify for the median priced existing single-family home, a potential buyer must have a household income of around $110,000. Isn't that amazing?
What's amazing go ahead and finish that next sentence.
According to the recent housing affordability data published by the Real Estate Trade Association, 3 years ago, households needed to earn $59,000 to qualify for the same type of home. 59 to 110.
Yeah, that's affordability issue.
Yeah, let's see if wait, here we go. This is what this looks like.
Yeah.
Sorry. That's what that looks like. Oh, I should have had music behind that. Wah, 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 wah. The worst part, affordability conditions are unlikely to improve dramatically. Wells Fargo economist said that's because housing supply is still not keeping up with strong demand. No silver bullet for the housing market, and jump in anytime, Rodney. Lower mortgage rates should alleviate some pressure on the housing market, but it might take a while before they drop enough to provide any meaningful respite. Go ahead.
No, I was just that's to me is I think it's meaningful for a lot of people. I think folks are getting back into the market.
Yeah.
So when percent of America, does something that they want to do, but I mean, I'm not leaning that way. I think it'll be meaningful when 25% of America gets off the fence, and starts buying or whatever. So I'm not quite, I think it's going to happen a little bit faster than that, or be more meaningful before a good while.
Right. Let me read
Not
through
unless he's saying a while, a couple months.
Right. The question right now isn't if the Fed will lower the borrowing costs, since Jerome Powell said he just gave the strongest signal. It seems like unless something really tragic happens, I can't imagine anything other than at least a quarter, maybe 0.5. I don't know. I don't know about that. Probably not. That would be pretty aggressive. But by rather how much and how fast the Fed will cut rates. It's not clear if the average standard mortgage will drop below 6% this year. Do you have an opinion on that? That you're ready to stake in front of the world, Rodney said?
Yeah, boom. Yeah, I don't think they're going to drop below 6%,
Wait, wait.
but they're all close.
Okay. Ready.
Yeah.
Now you can go.
Last time I predicted rates, by the way, I was wrong for like 17 straight years. So let's keep that in mind.
Well, that sounds like, I don't want to get political.
Yeah, and I think about 98, I told somebody I thought 7% was a fantastic rate, and I didn't see it going lower, and it went lower for.
Yeah. Yep. The Fed doesn't, so we're going to press on. The Fed doesn't directly set mortgage rates, but its actions do influence them through the benchmark 10-year Treasury yield bonds. And I did full research on that if we want to talk about that one day. I get it now. I do. It's kind of cool. Cut trades such as bond yields have typically fallen at developments encouraging the Fed to cut rates, such as employment rising or inflation continuing to moderate. And they have risen at signs the Fed could keep rates on hold, such as inflation remaining stubborn. The average mortgage rate has been essentially flat since plummeting earlier this month. And that, I would agree that it's hanging out at about 6.5, wouldn't you say? Okay. Yeah, we're having a little internet bugaboo there. The themes in Chairman Powell's speech were largely anticipated by the market, and I don't expect mortgage rates to move much in response. Our forecast continues to look for mortgage rates to drift down closer to 6 over the next 12 months or so. Is that more reasonable over the next 12 months, do you think?
Finish that. I'm sorry, the internet cut out on me. What was your question?
Yeah. The first question was, do you think it's going to make it to 6? And this gentleman, an economist with MBA, Mortgage Bankers Association, says it'll be closer to 6% over the next 12 months or so. Does that seem more reasonable to you?
Yeah, I think they're going to continue. I think they're going to continue to fall and get in the 6, maybe mid 5s, but it's probably going to be next year sometime before we hit that. It's probably not going to be after the election. Get through the winter before we start seeing a continuous decrease.
Two things that are important to consider. The election is stalling people out. I mean, I read a couple of articles today. The question is politics holding things up? Absolutely. When you've got some people out there saying, I'm going to build 3 million homes. Yeah, okay. I'm going to sit back and watch you do that. That should be, it's positive. It's a good soundbite. I want to see it happen, That's going to make a lot of people sit on the sidelines, So let me just finish this. Go ahead.
There's always one party, too, that's going to move to Canada if the other party wins, right? I mean, there's those people. So they may free up some inventory if somebody wins.
We should start a running. I'm more than willing to do this. A running list of celebrities that are going to move out of the country if one side over the other wins. I'm happy to keep tabs on that. That'd be some good ones. It happens every 4 years and they never move.
Hey, yeah, you're right.
They every 4 years, and I'm 70, so I've seen this before. I've seen this movie before. Even if mortgage rates tumble below 6%, that still leaves Americans ponying up for the most expensive homes. Bang. In history, a big deciding factor for home prices is the supply of homes, which we're going to get to in a minute, which isn't anywhere close to keeping up with demand. But there have been some welcome steps in the right direction. Total housing inventory at the end of July was 1.33 million. Excuse me. Our data shows That's 0.8% higher from June and up 19.8 from a year ago. Housing inventory has improved every single month this year so far. Now, the good news is that's good that there's more inventory. I'm going to say the flip side of that is the reason is because they're not selling that fast. I'm generally speaking, I mean, well, hello. A
Hello.
chronic lack of homes. Hello, Lord. A chronic lack of homes on the market has proven to be the U.S. housing market's key challenge because of its effect on prices. The two leading candidates for president, and I won't, have proposed their own solutions to shore up the housing supply. One has proposed using federal land to address the housing shortage, which, by the way, the Canadians are doing, for whatever that's worth. They're
Really?
opening up public lands to build more houses, which is, I mean, I don't know. Would that work? I don't know. Before the end of today, we're going to talk about a West Nashville neighborhood that has a similar opportunity. And it's going to be shocking to see how they feel about this. Anyway, so one of them going to use federal land, and the other one is going to get construction of 3 million new houses. That's a lot of houses.
Yes.
Any thoughts on
Yeah,
that,
no.
Cotton?
Yeah, I won't go into the two candidates'
Good.
political promises on housing, but I think the article is correct in some sense, but I think it misses the point on two big factors. Is that when the folks that are golden handcuff folks, we are inching closer and closer to would actually pull the trigger and move on. I mean, and I think we're, could be within a half to 0.75% away from people starting entering the market. And then as affordability eases with these rates, because back year over year, I think Case Shiller and something put out yesterday, percent gain year over year. So that's a modest or moderate, gain in appreciation. So the people that's the 25 to 35-year-olds that are living at home, that's a huge segment right now, and I think those folks are going to be coming off as this is with rates, because it ain't going to ease with home prices. Home prices aren't going backwards,
Not
You know,
soon.
yes, but people's been predicting that for 2 years, 3 years. You know,
Oh,
prices
about
coming back. They're coming back, but they haven't.
the market crashing. You mean that?
Yes, yes.
Now, I tell you one of the tendencies about buyers, especially those that are getting a full loan and that kind of stuff. What happens is when a mortgage rate gets close, they're talking to their lender and they're trying to get a feel for what those numbers are. And I think that this is just, at least for me, it's proven out to be human nature. But when somebody gets close to a number that they could work, I'm going to make one up. Let's say it's 6.5. Let's just say that's what somebody's number is. And so the rates today are 6.6, and they're like close enough that they have the belief it's going to go down, so they start looking at homes. What happens is once somebody goes out and starts looking at properties and finds something that they really like, then what kicks in is something that you've said. If you fall in love with the house, buy it anyway. It'll all work out over the long haul. I mean, because then if you like a house, you just want to buy it. If it's 6.6 versus 6.5, people will still be okay with it because they're looking at it long term. It gets that gets people off of the fence instead of a hard number. That's all I'm saying. Have you seen that to be true, or am I just making that up?
No, it's I mean, it's like once somebody finds a lot of people, a lot of people tend, when people find something, they're looking at, I mean, some people might get rid of a car, whatever, take on a roommate, whatever it is they need to do to try to get in the house that they want, make it affordable.
Yep. Yep. The hey, I want to stop. We've got some people that joined. I'm going to interrupt our program just for a moment and say that we've got some friends on here that are staying in town, and I am super glad to say that Philip and Wendy are staying in town. We love you guys. We want you to be around, and I hope that's okay that I say that. I guess it's too late.
Yeah, well, welcome back. I told Wendy, welcome back.
Welcome back. We are so glad, so glad. That was great news. These are salt of the earth people, and I just love them to death. They're super important to me. So would you recommend? Let's ask. Let's jump down to a question. Thoughts, Rodney?
I to your real estate agent there, because I'm the way I look at it is, when you're trying, your buying is going to cost 4% more next year, and if you don't time the rates and save a couple percent, you're still not going to make up the 4%. On say a $400,000 house, 4%, it's going to be $416,000.
But she's
And even though you're paying a lower rate on the 416, so that's what I talk about. I always talk about buying whenever the appreciation cost is too much. So the appreciation to me right now is, you're gaining too much not to buy right now, versus almost no matter what your rate is.
What she's asking about is it a good time to sell?
Yeah, I'm leaving that to you. I was just rambling on about the rates.
Sorry about that. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. In Southern California, the difference between now and next spring. Well, let's go into this next article a little bit, and it may open up some ideas. I think that to give you an answer straight up without sounding like I'm hedging, I think that the difference between now and next spring is going to be relatively minimal. And I don't know what that means, for you particularly. But for a $750,000 house today, if in next spring, would it be 770? Is maybe something like that? Is that a lot? It maybe, it just kind of depends, but it's not going to be doing this skyrocket stuff. I don't believe that that's going to happen. I got to continue on this thought though. If mortgage, and I need your help with this, Rodney, if mortgage rates do moderate, and if they drop, let's say that they dropped into the sixes, and I don't know what your market is down there, but I'm going to bet that the inventory is pretty low. If I were a gambling person and you're asking about this selling thing, the proposition really is, what circumstance would best create the best return on your house? I mean, that's as simple a question as can be. But if the rates were lower and more buyers were in the market and you could get more competition for your house, that's going to give you a better bottom line. I don't care how you slice it. So I guess I answered my own question. With inventory being a little bit low now and buyer sales, I'm sorry. With home sales being so slow, I actually would say wait for things to kind of stabilize just a little bit. Lower mortgage rates, more buyers getting into the market. It's a competition. It's going to be competition more than anything else that gets you more value on your house, I believe. And maybe you can get away without, I mean, we can get back to the point of not having any I don't want to use the concessions because that terminology has changed things, but repairs and things like that, maybe that changes. Any thoughts on that, Rodney? Like, wet my whistle.
Me, yeah,
Did I just
I
steamroll you?
no, I'm thinking, and see, this is why you're the expert. I'm thinking if she was selling and moving, if she was moving down, like if she's selling, say, 1 million and buying 500,
Hmm.
the 4% gain on 500 is less than the 4% gain that she might get on her, and then she would get um, the springtime charge. So if you gave me two choices, right now or springtime on listing, I'd probably sell in the spring.
Hmm.
If I was buying, I'd probably, just because the 4% doesn't work as a buyer's favor. But in the seller favor, if she's buying down, she might get 4% more for her house, but it's a higher price than 4% paying 4% more on a lower price one. So
Yeah. Yeah.
springtime.
I think springtime probably as well. But I think what my point is, and I didn't say it well, is I don't believe that the market difference between, let's call it October and February, are going to be so shockingly different that you'll go, God, I wish I would have sold back then or waited for that. Unless something dramatic happens that we just can't see, I think that the definition of this market is it's slow and it seems to be steady. That's what it seems to be,
Yeah.
Um, and so there's no, if this was 2021, I'd say, wait 3 months, you'll get an extra 60 grand or, I mean, just silly, crazy numbers. But whatever you gain, you're going to lose in the purchase price. So that's a sort of washes out. Here's one of your, this is an interesting. My concern about selling late fall, early winter is I don't really want to travel cross country in bad weather. This, I can speak to this. The only place that you're going to have rough weather that time of the year is going to be across the Sierra Nevadas, which you're right there, and then across the Rockies, which is where I used to live. And I can tell you that there's long stretches of really good weather that you can count on. Those blizzards that blow through are kind of the rare event. So try not to let weather scare you too much because it can get tough, but you see it coming is my point. And here's the other point she had. Inventory is low, but nice houses sell quick. Dave Ramsey. I don't care what it is. If it's a nice house priced right, it's going to sell fast. Good market, bad market. That's Dave Ramsey in spades. So that's not going to change. And if you have a nice house, which I'm sure you do, and it's priced correctly, we'll have to see how that works out for you. You'll do just fine. I mean, you'll get market value. You'll do fine. Plus, I can just tell you're a nice person. I mean, that that goes a long way in trying to sell your house, being a decent human being. It really does. It's have you ever dealt with difficult clients, Rodney?
I'm going to take the 1, 2, 3, 4, the fifth on that one.
All right, so here we go. This is going to be really quick, and then we're going to jump into the local stuff. Good news or bad news for home sellers, is good news, maybe good news for home buyers. During the early days of the pandemic, it became clear that something odd was going on with the housing market. To keep the economy chugging along, the Federal Reserve dropped the federal rates to zero. Not really, but buyers came out in droves to take advantage of those mortgage, and that resulted in part of this action. All those buyers competing for a limited number of homes on a market drove prices into the stratosphere. Now we're going to see some pressure with low inventory, and if the rates drop, if they were to drop too quick, there's going to be too many buyers, and there's going to be some upward pressure on that. So we're just talking about that. So, I mean, the market always takes that into account, but it probably won't be like the pandemic, I wouldn't think. Although we knew enough to expect a correction, there was no way to know when that would happen. It took years. Bing. It took years, but lately we've begun to see signs of a softening market and greater potential for buyers to regain a measure of control. And whether you're selling or buying, you've got a benefit on one side or the other. Home sellers may want to brace themselves for a slowing, normalizing market in many areas of the country. And that's what we're talking about. And I think we've talked about that for quite a while. Stability and duration is super important. Would you agree with that, Rodney, or is that changed?
No, it'll be that way. It's just kind of like the housing market. It's got to be good when people are buying. I mean, the job market, excuse me.
Yep. Yeah. And I understand if somebody was in the market and you hear that Powell talking about cutting rates in the next month, it makes total sense to me that somebody would put on their waiting hat, right? But that same person is going to be the one that's going to go out and, if they're smart, and I'm sure they are, in preparation for lower rates, get out there and start looking at houses so that when the rates, if and when they do drop, you'll already know what's on the market and what's ready, what's available. So that seems like a savvy move to me. Here we go. Two realities. What makes the situation so tricky to navigate is that we're facing two competing realities. The Federal Reserve Bank of St. Louis reports a median home price this summer's $412. However, according to the National Association of Home Builders, 49% of households do not earn enough money to afford a $250,000 home, much less a home selling at more than $400,000. The number of homes on the market across the U.S. has grown. As homes remain on the market for longer, competition has slowed. I don't know that I agree with that, with the way that's phrased. The homes remain on the market longer because they're not priced right, not necessarily because the competition has slowed. Does that make sense?
Right. Yeah. There's little competition. Right.
Yeah. So here's where we stand. Homes remain impossibly expensive for a large portion of the American population, and that is true, but fewer people are competing to buy a home, which is good news for buyers. So if you're in the market to buy, and I'm telling you, if there's no competition and a seller wants to sell, I'm going to say it used to be because things have changed. You really got the upper hand if it's just you and the seller. You really do. I mean, if you have a savvy agent, you're going to be okay. But the rules have changed, so we'll see how that shakes out over the next 6 months. 5 months ago, I could have given you what would have been carved in stone answers. Can't do that today. While homes were snapped up within hours of hitting the market back then during the height of the pandemic, early this summer, the situation had changed. Nearly 70% of U.S. counties studied experienced an increase in inventory last year. And again, people are saying, oh, we got more inventory. That's because home sales have slowed down to a crawl. That's why. Between May of 23 and May of 24, 16% more homes were available to purchase. This is still less than was available in May of 2019. But an improvement nonetheless. Almost done. With less competition for homes in play, properties have remained on the market longer. The longer a house is on the market, the better the chances are that the seller will be forced to accept sale contingencies. This is what I was saying a moment ago. During periods of high competition, home buyers are more likely to skip contingencies. For example, if they're afraid another buyer will beat them out, I'm not going to have an inspection. We used to, I'll buy the house. How's it look? I don't know. I don't care. Home inspection. What's that? Appraisals. What's that? What's the deal with appraisals now, Rodney? How many more are they coming across that are being waived, appraisals?
Not a significant amount. Believe it or not,
right?
not a significant amount. Yeah. I think the investors still want boots on the ground, so to speak, to somebody to actually walk in these houses and take pictures and things like that. they have enough data, in my opinion, to have really do something different with appraisals. Like they have the data.
Right.
Because every time an appraisal on a conventional loan is done, it is logged through a Fannie Mae system. So not only do they have all the data on that particular house, they have the data on every comp that they used. So it's an extreme amount of data. They've got it. They can tell that I've seen comments come back to me like another appraiser has used your second comp but called it a 4 bedroom instead of a 3 bedroom, things like that. So they could have done something, but I don't think at this time that's their plan. I think it's as is with appraisals.
Okay. I know that in the last couple of years, there's been several circumstances where appraisals have been waived on both the sale and the purchase that I've helped people through. But I think also those were both areas that are fairly densely populated, and the homes they're not cookie cutter, but they're similar to others in the neighborhood. So I imagine that makes the chances of a waived appraisal probably goes up a little bit, and newer homes. Yes, no. Did you hear me? Am I cutting out? Hello? Hello? Okay. Don't know what's going on. It's an internet thing. I'm going to answer this for you, Angie. Let me know when you're going to hear me, Rodney. Are you there? If we lost it, let's do this. I know home comps can only go back 6 months or so. If I sold in March, wouldn't comps be lower since prices are usually higher in the summer? Here's how I would look at that. You can only go back 3 months on your comps, and Rodney's gone. And then there we go. Sorry about that. You there?
I'm there. Was it something I said?
It was you know what I mean. So you're only going to go back. I'm answering Angie's question just of a second ago. Thanks for hopping back in, Ronnie. I would only go back 3 months. And I think that you can pretty much rest assured that prices, your comps, are going to be higher in the spring than they will be this last fall. I'm not seeing any price reductions of any significant nature. What these guys are talking about in this article, and we'll even kind of slow down on this one, is it's just not going up as fast. It's a deceleration of price increases is what they're talking about. So it's two things. Only go back 3 months. That's much more reliable. In a crazy market, go back less than that. And you'll be fine. You'll be fine. It's your market. California is going to be going up. I don't care what the deal is. It's going up. My daughter had a home inspection. Apparently it was awful because she had nothing but problems with it. Did she, got it. Thank you, Philip. Mine's cutting out? Okay. Angie, did she buy the house with the, nothing but problem? Did she buy the house, have a tough inspection, and still buy it? Rodney, are you still with me?
I am.
Okay. I'll have to wait for her to get an answer on that. So we'll jump back on this other deal. So what about home prices? Lawrence Yoon, he's the economist for the National Association of Realtors. And he told NBC News, inventory has certainly increased, but sales have yet to get going. So if inventory lingers for longer, that's when we'll really start seeing price reductions. When we're talking about price reductions, and I'm going to get off this, there's three things that affect prices. It's going to be inventory, interest rates, and more available properties. Those are the things that's the same thing as inventory. Those are going to affect the prices. But when we're talking about price reductions, typically, most of the price reductions you see these days, and you see it happening on a lot of these intra-group on Facebook groups, they're having trouble selling houses. The market has just slowed down, but rarely, got it, thank you. But rarely has a price adjustment not sold a house. There's somebody out there that wants any given house at a particular price, and I'm not talking about fire sales. I'm just talking about fair market value is what it is. And when we're talking about price reductions, it's typically in areas where people have started out too hot. They've priced the house too high. And it doesn't have to be by a lot. I had listed a house and it was listed close to 500 and it was $10,000 difference before that house sold. It was $10,000. You would think that somebody would make an offer accounting for that $10,000 difference, but it just sat until we lowered it 10 and then it sold at that price. I was like, what? So anyway, what this whole article says, and I'll let this go, is, and I want to get into something else real quick. We just got a couple of minutes. It's the bad news for home buyers, maybe good news for bad news for home sellers, maybe good news for home buyers. It kind of goes without saying. If the prices are going down, home buyers are happy about it. All right. Can we jump into this West Nashville article?
Yes.
Oh, and I meant to.
Oh,
I forgot to do something. I'm just going to hate myself I'm going to press ahead anyway. Did you have any initial thoughts on this particular article? What the article is West Nashville residents launch a group to fight what they call the zombie idea about housing. We'll tell you what that is in a second. Rodney, what are your thoughts about this article?
I like the article, and I don't think, although this is our, it's part, this is not local. This is going to be happening across the country.
Precisely why I pulled this up.
Yeah, this may be a local article, not going to be a local issue. Their idea of this multi-unit housing, but I'm anxious to see. Like, I was excited to read the article. I thought it was very well written, and especially because of the zombie comment. And I'm like, what the hell is zombie housing or whatever they're talking about? Zombie idea when they're talking about housing. So it's kind of cool. I like the article.
I did too. And Angie, I promise I'm going to answer those questions. Those are good questions. I will not forget you. I want to get into this and through this. What this article was about is one of the hottest topics in today's real estate market is affordability. I don't care any conversation that you have, whether it's rates or it's whatever, it boils down to affordability. That's the problem. People can't afford to buy houses, so they linger on the market. Right? I mean, a huge percentage, they're saying 60% of Americans now can't afford a starter home. Excuse me. So in this article, and I'm not going to mention names, and I'm not even going to show you the article because I know people in this in this article. But here's what they're saying. West Nashville residents are saying they're fighting zombies, not the Walking Dead kind, but what they call zombie idea of the housing and zoning. And we're going to answer Rodney's comment. Advocates in West Nashville have launched D23, Save Our Nashville Neighborhood. Look that up. It's a grassroots effort to stop these zoning changes. The organization's president has called the rezoning, which would allow for more multifamily housing, zombie-ish. And he attributes zombie to if it's a bad idea and people aren't stopping long enough to look at it, we consider it an idea that is a bit zombie-ish in that you can't make it go away in the conversation. What? What? Okay. All right. Wait a minute. Hang on. It's a satire alert. I'm kind of poking fun a little bit because it goes, what's the one thing that we were talking about affordability and trying to get more housing? Not 2 months ago was an article. What did they talk about, Rodney?
Take these the city neighborhoods, and allowing you to build up to 4 properties on these single property plots right now. Like, you've got they're going to allow you to build either a secondary or maybe even tear it down or maybe even build a triplex back there. Who knows? Build a triplex in your front yard. I don't know what these zoning things are doing, but neighborhood, I'd be extremely concerned if people started putting up duplexes and extra houses on their lots. But um, you know, there may be some places that it would make sense. I would just, I think the government or the city or something has to take a long look at these neighborhoods to see where they're allowed, if they're going to be allowable.
100%. And full disclosure, if this was my neighborhood, I'd be in this article. I'm if there was a fair example and not in my backyard, this would be it. And is that a little bit too transplanted? I'm telling you that here's a story for you. Now down my street, is probably 300 feet away on the other side of the railroad tracks, they're going to build a dog grooming, pet sitting combination center 2 stories high. And I can't remember the name, it was Dog Heaven or something. But what they were going to do is they were going to build the cages, the kennels for the back of this place behind that building on the other side of the railroad tracks, 300 feet from my house. We, as a neighborhood, we trooped down there. I mean, we're busting ourselves down to the county commissioner office to go, no, no dogs in our backyard. And we beat that son of a gun. They didn't do it. I'd be doing the same thing with these guys. If it was my neighborhood and they wanted to shoehorn a bunch of other people in, the reason, there's a couple of things, and I'm going to put this up as a disclaimer again, satire alert. Philip, I don't know. It's kind of read through the article and see, isn't that going to be the question? Where is it going to go? And that's what Rodney's saying. If they want to do this kind of a thing, how do you pick and choose who to intrude on? Who do you pick and choose where there's having 6 people in their driveway or 6 cars in front of a house, for the lot size? And where do you pick and choose? But it's just a couple of things they need help with their group. Let me read this. The president said, satire alert here, said that time and time again it has been proven that multifamily housing in affluent neighborhoods does not drive down prices, yet the idea didn't go away. Okay, prove that. Give me some evidence of that. Nothing.
I'll tell you, if they do it in Westmead, okay,
Right.
or if they do even it's happening right now. Anytime somebody buys something that is able to put 2 houses on it, that house is flattened, and they build two tall and skinnies attached right there. So that's
Correct.
what they're talking. It's not and those are not affordable. Those come up at 900, 1.5 each.
That's absolutely true. That's particularly in East Nashville. Now, I don't know about Westmead's probably got that overlay where it's like 1 residence per lot. Have you ever seen that? They limit that.
Right.
But East Nashville, they're everywhere. I mean, you drive around East Nashville and you'll see this 1970s style house, and then right next to it's 2 tall skinnies that when they sold, they're like $690,000 a piece. So, I mean, you make a good argument there. Color me convinced, But okay, so I'm going to read this. It's just, the paragraph struck me funny. And again, I'm just kind of making fun. What the most current studies are showing is that the affordability is improving affordability for the above middle income families almost in its entirety. The service to very low to middle income families is almost immeasurable. I don't even know what that means. Do you know what that means?
Yes.
You do?
The level of affordability is improving for the very low to middle income families is almost immeasurable. Meaning there's nothing. It's not getting more affordable for the lowest income right now. Things are outpacing the lower affordable people too much.
So that's 2 for 2. You shot me down twice. That's good. That's why I love this. Smack me around a little bit. That's good. No, that makes sense to me. Here's the point that I want, and then I'm going to jump back to Angie's question. Advocates for the rezoning change have said that it would allow developers to create multifamily units within single-family units, or single-family homes, and drive down prices. That is the supposition. However, this person expressed concern about the strain this sort of housing will put on infrastructure and the natural environment. Now, and she says, since you shot me down twice, I'm not making fun anymore. No more satire. The wildlife and the space here is important. This would allow people to take down trees and put up a triplex right next door to me, which I think is the punchline, where the argument for affordable housing is it's loud and it's clear and it's long. But how are you're gonna run into this, which I'm telling you, standing right next to her saying the same thing. I would. How is that gonna happen? This affordability issue, when you get down to the person-to-person point of not in my backyard. I mean, that's a tough one.
You've just got to do it in the right spot. I mean, it's going to be about the location. I mean, because I could see, like, if they were saying, I'm going to build, 300 apartment buildings or condos that people could buy and own, but it's going to take up a lot less land than trying to build 500 single families somewhere. So I think they just got to find a location, and I don't know. The other cities have done it. We're not the first to experience this.
Right.
We could our leaders could be looking around at cities, but I can guarantee you when I'll give you a perfect example. I had some friends of mine, realtors, that were buying a property, and they were like, hey, I really don't care if it comes in at value or not. We're going to buy it anyways. And so I'm like, well, that's a weird comment for that. But so I looked at the appraisal, and guess what? You can build two units on that one lot. So I'm like, yeah. So okay, well, even if they're buying that lot for 500,000 or the house for 500, that's 250 a lot, and that's cheap for Nashville dirt, right? So they were just going to put two properties on that thing. So that's what all I'm talking about is that we've got to figure out something, but I don't know. Things are so expensive. The poorer county, I just don't know what the hope is for. I don't know what the plan is for them.
And the biggest things that you see happening, where there'd be some kind of an impact, would be that place. I can't even remember. I don't even know what they call it now. Down on the river where Oracle's going to go, where they're going to create this huge area. I should know the name of that, but I'm embarrassed to say I don't. But in some of those housing, they're going to say 10% of it, or a certain percentage, is going to go to affordable housing, whatever that means. I mean, they're trying to get a handle on it, and that seems to be the only way, where if you're building, just like you said, 500 residential units, 10% of those go to affordable housing, and I don't even know how that works. And the reason I bring this up.
It's a pretty good program. We've done it here for a long time. Like the condo units that I've been involved in have had affordable units.
Yeah.
And basically all it is a deed restriction. Once you sell it, it has a deed restriction on it forever. And the next person that buys it has to be lower income, and they only get a certain percentage of appreciation versus the rest of the property, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it works, but the problem is there's just not enough of them. And it's usually not like 10%. Like if you build a 300 thing, there may have been 30 units, but the last one I seen in Franklin, there's only a dozen of them. And I'm like, A dozen ain't very many when you have to have these workers to come into the hospitals and McDonald's and all these places to work, you know?
And within 6 months, with prices going like they are, and a new chunk of people that it's unaffordable for it, then you've got a whole new group of people that would fit into that category. So it's a tough question. It is a tough question. So enough with that. I'm going to jump back and answer one of Angie's questions if you've got time, Rodney.
Oh, yeah.
You've got somebody coming after you. This is in response to the question was, did she, about the inspection on her house? No, she had a house inspection. Not 6 weeks later, she had water coming in. Whoops. Sorry. Water coming through the ceiling, and the problems just continued since. So far, close to 50,000 repairs. Can you come after the original? I imagine what the rest of that means is, can you come after the seller? The answer to that is, at least in Tennessee, once you close, there isn't many places that you can go back that I know of. Now, that doesn't mean you can't sue somebody. This is America, you know. You can sue somebody, you know.
You don't need a reason to sue anybody anymore.
You know, and I'm not laughing. I mean, it's not funny. It's horrific that she would have to go through that. And that's where, you know, you can question the inspector, although you have to be a little careful with that. Before you go that direction and spend money on a lawyer, read that disclaimer. If she had a home inspector, read that disclaimer first, because they do a pretty good job of the hold harmless thing for home inspectors, generally speaking. So before you spend money for a lawyer to tell you that, just read that up front. But I'm so sorry that happened. Oh, man.
Yeah, I think the last one there, the sellers do, if the sellers are aware of an issue, they do have to disclose it to you unless they've not lived there, right?
Correct.
Unless it's an investment problem, I want to list it because they're basically not aware of it. But if they're aware of it, I had a neighbor in my neighborhood that sold his house, and the new people bought it. They come in and the pool was messed up. They figured it out a few months later. Called the pool company out to fix it, and the guy was like, "We've already gave you a quote," you know, like. And and it wasn't them; it was the first owners that had it, and so the owners didn't know it was, and so they were contacted, and there was a little bit of a settlement there, I think. So.
Yep. That's a perfect example. I'm going to hang on to that one, because when it comes to disclosures, that's the kind of evidence you have to have. Because I mean, it'd be pretty easy to say, which a lot of people do, you know, it's my expectation that, you know, I don't know about that, because you're asking them to tell you what they were aware of. Well, I didn't know about it. And there's so much stuff in a house that you really don't know what's going on. And you would think it's pretty easy to blame somebody. Go, why didn't you tell me? Because I didn't know that the roof trusses were rotted. I just didn't know, you know, I don't ever go up there, you know. So Rodney's story is the best example of what you would need in order to win, in my opinion, on that kind of a thing. God, what a day. This went a little overboard. Sorry about that. Angie, thank you very much. I hope that helped a little bit on your questions. Rodney, what a good day. And you shot me down. That was beautiful, man.
Yeah.
It was excellent.
I'd watch westerns all weekend, so that was I was coming in here with guns loaded.
Guns a blazing, man. Any final thoughts as we wrap it up for this week, heading into next?
No, just like I said, I'm just kind of curious to see over this above these support levels and rates continue to improve. That's about it.
Yeah, we're gonna dip in one last time. That is why you have a home inspection. That is absolutely true.
Yep.
And that is why you have them. Remember that a home inspector, their job is to flag potential problems for the professionals. They're usually not HVAC guys. They're not electrical guys. They're not framing guys. They're not plumbing guys. They're none of that. They're sort of jack of all trades. But their job is to flag potential problems. Then you call in the professionals on that particular trade. But it isn't a complete protectionary device. I admit that it's yeah. I don't have a good answer beyond that. Okay. All right. Listen, Rodney, it's nice seeing you, buddy. And Ange, thank you for your chiming in there. Philip, Wendy, have a great week. I think I've got this. See y'all.
All right.